All right, we're here outside of Liuyang, and we are going to go to a factory that makes 500-gram cakes. So we're gonna go through kind of a step-by-step process of how 500-gram cakes are made. It's gonna be a very exciting trip. Let's go take a look inside. This machine dries the tubes inside this building right here. So we've seen several things in China. Sometimes on a nice day, they'll set the tubes out in the sun. They dry it that way. In this example, they've invested in a machine because in this part of China, it rains a lot. So they have a very big advantage over other factories in that they can dry right here, rain or shine. So after the tubes are completely dry, they are usually stored in a warehouse where they're pulled from when they need it for the production. And that's what this room is here. It's a storage room for just the tubes. They compress, this looks like a wood fiber material, but sometimes they use clay. And this is the base for when the charge lifts out of the tube. You gotta have a very good base so it doesn't blow out of the bottom. But these tubes are solid, dry, and they're ready to go into production now. This is the most exciting area right here, I think. So after the tubes are dry, they will usually put an insert inside the tube. The insert is the key to everything. At the very bottom of the insert, it has something called a lift charge that pushes the insert into the sky with a delay fuse, and that's what ignites in the sky that you see when you shoot a 500-gram cake. But that has to all be put together by hand, and this is where they do it. You can see that she is making a hole in the side of the tube where the fuse goes in. So now she takes the fuse, and different color fuse represents different speeds. And you can see this finished product right here is not an item necessarily for the United States market. And the reason why I know that is because there's no wooden separator beams. For a 500-gram cake in the United States, you would have to have separators here. But this is probably going to ship to Europe. So this is a European style cake right here. And this is what the assembled final product looks like before there's ever a label put on it. This is all, looks like one solid cake right here. This is a monster. And see what we don't get to have fun with in America is stuff like this. Oh, and it is heavy. But I bet you this is a wonderful show. So we decided that it would be interesting to visit a little bit with a worker here at this factory to see a little bit about what her job role is. And first of all, can you tell me your name?
你能告诉我你的名字吗？
我叫张伟平。
My name is 张伟平。
Zhang Weiping. Okay. So Zhang Weiping, can you tell us what do these different colors mean on these fuses?
你能告诉我那个引线的不同的颜色是什么意思吗？
知道。
Yes, I know.
这个红的就叫0秒。
Red is 0 second fuse.
这个黄的就是10至15秒。
Yellow color is 10 to 15 seconds fuse.
这是2合1就是70秒。
This 2-in-1 is 70 seconds.
How long does it take her to make a complete product?
你煮一个盆，完整的煮一个盆，大概要多长时间？
像这样的，先把它搞好这个牌子，大概半个小时吧，搞一个吧。
Okay, for
先把这个牌子搞好，再连起来是半个小时，30分钟。
okay for
Okay.
this product, firstly, we need to set one row by row, and then combine all the rows. It will use around half an hour for only one product.
And so how many products do you usually make in one day?
你一天大概能煮多少个盆？就以这款来说
20多个吧。
，around 20s.
How many days per week do you work here?
你一周工作多少天？
一个月，
一周
一周啊，5天。
，1 week, 5 days.
Okay, so not too bad. And so how many different workers are here at this factory to make this single product? Like how many people are dedicated to just this one product?
一个产品大概需要多少个工人去制作？
应该都有，剩下来10多道都要吧。工序要做眼的，做这个眼，做这个眼，做筒子，打泥条，裁纸的，做纸的，大概太多了。几十个工序还要装销啊，还要做类筒啊，我们都搞不懂，那就是太多了。
It's a lot of process, over 20 process.
So there's a lot of different people involved in just making one product.
At least 20s.
At least 20. Okay, good. And then I want to ask her a little bit about her personal life. Is she from the local area? Is she from this area?
你是来自于本地的吗
对，
？Yes, local.
And how long have you worked on Fireworks?
你从事这行有多长时间了
7、8年，大概7年。
？8 years.
Okay, great. And then do you enjoy what you do?
你觉得这工作开心吗
开心。
？Yes, happy.
And then what is your hope or aspiration? What is your goal? What do you hope that when somebody shoots the product that you make, what do you hope that they feel when they shoot it?
那如果有人去燃放你制作的产品，你希望是怎样的？你对他们有什么样的期望？
希望它质量好啊，别人看了开心呐、
She hope that the quality is very good and the people who display it with happiness.
Great. Okay. Thank you so much. 谢谢你。
不用，谢谢你们了。
So we're going to go to a different part of the factory now. One thing I wanted to point out is how these buildings are organized with space in between them. So if there's ever an accident or fire or explosion, they're separated to minimize the damage and casualties. So in this area, what you do is you touch this, and this discharges any static from your body to minimize any sort of static discharge in the wrong area. So we also are going to walk across a wet mat that will keep our feet from scuffing and making static electricity in this area. So this is a more volatile area. This is not the most volatile area, but this is a more volatile area. So if you can see, each worker is assigned one room that's separate from the other to minimize any disaster that could happen. And but like I said, this is the second most volatile. The most volatile is where they mix the powder, and we probably won't even go there. But this is where they put the inserts into each individual tube. So the area that we were just in is where they assemble the tubes. This is where they put the actual insert inside the tube. So a little more volatility here. Okay. Go look, go look.
Are these more tubes that are done?
No, those are cakes that are done. Those are actually done. They just are missing the label. And it looks like right here is where they're going to be putting it in a label. So I said earlier that I think a lot of the product that was being made was for the European market, but actually it's for the domestic market in China, which is similar in effect. So these, in this case, instead of putting a label, like most Americans are used to a paper label on the product, they pack these here in a decorative box. So that's what they're doing. They're taking the product, loading it in the box, and then getting ready to ship it on the container. And this is the final process right here before it goes to the consumer, in this case, the consumer in China. As you can see, those are heavy. There's a lot more powder in there than for the American market. It takes 2 people to lift each box. So for most consumers back home, you're used to a 500-gram cake. Here we have a display cake. So this is a 1.3G non-consumer item. This is professional grade. But look how big this cake is. And how heavy. So this is a 4,500-gram cake. So much more than the consumer firework in the United States. What we saw earlier was, I was explaining a professional display cake. And so this is a display cake that's 1.3G. So the difference between 1.4G and 1.3G is that 1.4G is consumer fireworks and 1.3G is professional fireworks. And there's actually several other divisions in the one class of explosives. There's 1.1, 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. But for fireworks, we primarily focus on 1.4 and 1.3.
What does the number stand for? Like, is 1.4G, like, how many grand?
No, it has nothing to do with that. So basically, there's a chart that is made, I think it's an international standard, but like, I'm starting to study this for hazmat, but it's like one has, the group 1 has to do with explosives. And then like group 2 is, I think it's flammable. Group 3 is something else, and there's like corrosives and different types of hazard classes. And so when we get to explosives, it's just 1. So if it starts with a 1, you know it's explosives. And 1.1 is, it kind of, the smaller the number, the more explosive it is. So 1.1 is like mass explosive, big stuff. TNT, you know, dynamite and stuff like that is 1.1. So the most volatile area of the factory is the powder line, and that's where they mix the very fine powders. It is very controlled. We can't go in there, but I have gone to powder lines at other factories in the past, back when you could go in. And what they typically do is they make a little notch in the mountain, and a single worker works in that notch. So if there's an explosion, it only affects the one worker, but not everybody else. And they usually will have like a spinning basin to roll the stars up there. And it's a really fascinating area, but we can't go there anymore. But this is what they call the powder line right here. So very skilled, very cautious workers there only. So you have 3 levels. You have the most volatile, you have a medium volatility, which we saw, and then of course the packaging area, which is the least volatile. The red clay that you see in the very bottom of a 500-gram cake actually comes from the mountainsides in this part of China. And in the very far distance, you can see an area where they've been chipping away at a mountain, making the clay that goes into the 500-gram cakes that you see. And so it's interesting to think that when you are shooting a firework in the United States and you kick it over and you see all that orangish color powder, it's coming from a mountainside here in Liuyang, China.